billion quinquennials from Earth. At the edge of our solar system, a spacecraft named Alpha is on an exploratory mission. However, as soon as the astronauts arrive at the target area, a terrifying alien creature appears on the ship. The appearance of this monster is just the beginning. An eerie entity is watching the man. This is the latest 2024 sci-fi movie, Spaceman. A purple nebula appears at the edge of the solar system. Driven by curiosity, humans explore, only to discover the origins of the universe. Let's take a few minutes today to study what exactly is hidden at the edge of the solar system. 3 years ago, at noon, humans were busy with their daily lives. When everyone looked up, they saw a purple mist in the sky. At first, mankind thought it was some shady factories secretly emitting, but NASA investigated and found that the mist did not come from Earth, but from the distant edge of the solar system. The mist spread at an alarming rate, and by the time human satellites detected it, the mist had already expanded near Uranus. Humans named this mist Chopra. In an effort to figure out the origins of the mist, mankind has spent many hours and $25 billion building a ship called Alpha. Due to budget overruns, the life support system on the ship could only support one astronaut for a long journey. Finally, an astronaut named Yakub was selected. After 200 days of travel, Yakub arrived in Jupiter's orbit. At this moment, the mist had also reached the vicinity. Yakub immediately contacted Earth, reporting the ship's arrival and capturing images of the purple nebula. Just as Yakub finished his report and prepared to start collecting samples, the command center suddenly received a video from Yakub's wife, Lenka. In the video, Lenka tearfully asked for a divorce. Seeing Lenka in pain, the staff were troubled and quickly reported the matter to their superiors. After watching the video, the superiors decided that it was not the right time to send the video to Yakub. Meanwhile, Yakub, far away in space, was unaware of the video, having not contacted his wife for a week. Yakub missed her terribly. He tried to call her through satellite communication, but his pregnant wife didn't answer and drove away from home. Yakub assumed she wasn't home and didn't think much of it. After a quick wash, he prepared to rest, but Yakub didn't notice the nebula outside starting to flicker mysteriously. As soon as Yakub fell asleep, strange noises echoed through the cabin. He rushed to the cabin and found the vacuum cleaner in the bathroom had malfunctioned. For some reason, many devices on the ship had been failing recently, especially the surveillance cameras, which were almost all broken. Yakub attempted repairs, but each time he fixed them, the cameras would break again. At this moment, Yakub noticed something seemed to be wriggling on his eyes. When Yakub opened his eyes again, he found himself back in his sleeping bag. What he had just seen was a dream. At that moment, Yakub received a notification from Earth that the ship was near the edge of the nebula, and he was instructed to start collecting samples. Following orders, Yakub hurried to the control cabin. However, as soon as he started the instruments, strange things happened again.
Can I help you?
As Yakub was at a loss, Earth suddenly reconnected the communication. Yakub quickly reported what had just happened, but the staff found that the communication had not been interrupted. Yakub suspected a hacker attack, but the staff received no alerts of such an attack. They only said they would investigate and urged Yakub to complete the collection task as soon as possible. After hanging up, Yakub went to the collection cabin. Opening the hatch, Yakub was shocked to see a giant spider, Hanus, inside the cabin. Panicking at the sight of the enormous Hanus, Yakub quickly shut the hatch and contacted ground control, but they detected no signs of any foreign life forms. Hearing this, Yakub thought it might be a hallucination. He slowly reopened the hatch to check if Hanus was really in the cabin. To his horror, as soon as the hatch opened, he saw Hanus staring right at him. Realizing it wasn't a hallucination, Yakub backed away quickly. He retreated to the control cabin, closed the airlock, and donned his spacesuit. He planned to initiate the decontamination process to eliminate the creature. To his surprise, ground control requested Yakub to read the sponsor's speech first. It turned out that to raise funds, the space agency had auctioned off some equipment, including the disinfectants, which were sponsored. With no other choice, Yakub read the sponsor's speech. Once everything was ready, Yakub initiated the decontamination process, filling the entire cabin with yellow smoke. In a daze, Yakub saw a field of rapeseed flowers with his wife walking through them. At that moment, the decontamination process was successfully completed. Looking through the hatch, Yakub saw that Hanus had disappeared. Thinking the creature had been killed, he opened the hatch. Ground control noticed something was off with Yakub. He claimed to have seen an alien creature, but the system detected no signs of life. Ground control suspected Jakub was under too much stress and arranged for a doctor to talk to him. Before Jakub could respond, Hannes reappeared. Hannes introduced itself as a being from another universe. It had passed through the solar system years ago and discovered human civilization. It hid in Earth's orbit, learning about human culture and language. A few months ago, when Jakub left on his mission, Hannes, curious, followed him. Hearing Hannes' story, Jakub struggled to accept it, thinking it was still a hallucination. Rush back to the rest cabin and take a few drops of melatonin, but when he opened the hatch again, Hannes was still there, confirming that it wasn't a hallucination. Jakub tried to communicate with Hannes, finding it non-hostile. He also brought out some food to entertain the other. From Hannes, Jakub learned that its homeland had been destroyed by a civilization called Gaparo. Hannes had been wandering the universe for an unknown number of years and had come to the solar system because of the nebula outside the spaceship. This nebula is called Beginning, the origin of the universe, and all life is linked to this nebula. Suddenly, the lights in the cabin went out. Jakub was about to check when the cabin began to flicker with a purple glow, which turned out to be a purple particle of light. Jakub quickly found a glass jar, trying to collect the particle, but it floated out as soon as it entered the jar. Hannes told Jakub that origin particles could not be captured. Hearing this, Jakub hurriedly tried to contact ground control, only to find that communication had been cut off at some point. Meanwhile, more particles flooded into the cabin, filling it with light. The particles seemed to carry something, and Jakub's mind was filled with memories of his wife. Jakub realized that his wife wanted a divorce not because she didn't love him anymore, but because his relentless work to become an astronaut had strained their relationship. Lenka had just become pregnant when Jakub left Earth. Over the past few months, Jakub had only called home once a week, prompting Lenka to file for divorce. Hannes told Jakub that Beginning was not dangerous. It was a repository, storing everything in the universe without harming humans. At that moment, the spaceship's alarm indicated that Jakub had entered the nebula, and it was the best time for sample collection. Despite uncertainties about the ship's instruments, Jakub decided to try. He activated the collector to gather the particles. However, as soon as the instruments started, the cabin experienced electromagnetic interference.
Human.
Suddenly, Jakub heard ground control's voice in his communicator, warning that the collector's data was malfunctioning and ordering him to stop the collection. But Jakub was no longer in the control cabin. He saw Hannes outside the ship, seemingly in distress. Jakub thought Hannes was in trouble. He quickly donned his spacesuit, grabbed a decontaminator, and left the cabin. Propelled by a gas canister, Jakub caught up with Hannes, who explained that Gaparo had targeted it, and its body was being consumed. To thank Jakub for his hospitality, Hannes decided to use its remaining life to show him Beginning. Hannes led Jakub into the nebula. The interior of Beginning was not as magnificent as Jakub had imagined. Instead, it was filled with chaotic clusters of light. Hannes explained that each light cluster was a temporal light shadow, containing the stored content of Beginning. In a trance, Jakub saw the birth of the universe and the extinction of civilizations. Jakub noticed a strange phenomenon. His body was stretched out like a noodle. Hannes reassured Jakub, explaining that it was a spatial effect and nothing to worry about. Passing through a multicolored tunnel, Hannes and Jakub reached the center of the nebula. There were no errant light clusters here, only a vast mist that seemed both empty and full. In a trance, Jakub saw his wife again, and his surroundings changed. Jakub reached out to touch his wife, but the scene was an illusion. Hannes explained that Beginning had magical powers. It showed people what they most desired to see. Everyone's vision was different. Realizing this, Jakub understood that his deepest desire was not the universe's ultimate secrets but his loved ones. Meanwhile, on Earth, Lenka seemed to feel Jakub's call. She looked up at the sky, feeling her husband's gaze. At that moment, Hannes told Jakub that their time was up and opened a wormhole with its tentacles. In gratitude, Jakub offered Hannes a can of food. Hannes' body began to dissipate continuously after he had enjoyed the canned goods. Before Jakub could understand what was happening, a blinding flash appeared ahead. Jakub realized the flash was a spaceship. Jakub's headset crackled with familiar voices. It was a human exploration team. Jakub had mysteriously lost contact after entering the nebula, prompting Earth to send a second ship. Jakub told the other astronauts about Hannes, but they insisted there was no Hannes and that it was all a hallucination. They speculated that Jakub had developed space depression. Despite the disbelief, Yakub remained convinced of Heinous' existence. He called his wife, apologized, and was forgiven. This is the complete story of the latest 2024 sci-fi thriller, Spaceman.